So we are here today to talk about shame. Shame.
Shame on you.
Stuff that we felt shame about. And we thought it'd be an interesting topic to delve into because, honestly, I still feel shame about stuff now. And I think that anybody that's learning a musical instrument, for us, it's the bass, obviously, have felt shame about things, about not being able to do things or not knowing things and all of and being embarrassed to ask. And we're going to be, sharing what we felt shame about in the past. But I will say that some of the stuff that I actually have solved, some of the stuff, I decided that I wasn't going to solve it and I was just going to leave it. And sometimes I kind of feel a bit of shame about that still, actually. Yeah, right. But there's trade-offs, right? Because everything you're trying to do, if you want to spend time working on something and you're saying yes to that, then you're saying no to something else. So I don't know. It's a complicated wrestle for me. And we just thought it'd be cool to jump in and talk about this. But first of all, please, everybody in the comments, give Daisy, my beautiful little 6.2 kilogram dog, very small, some love. Just before I set off to come here to the studio today, she was stung on the face by a bumblebee. And it was it traumatized me. She puffed up. She ate it.
She ate the bee.
She ate the bee. That's what was going on. In case anybody's wondering, how the heck did she get stung? Well, she was eating it. She got stung and she went kind of rigid. And I thought she was going into it's got anaphylactic shock. I was shit. I was like, this is the worst. She went kind of stiff. Yes. And I think it was actually the pain. I think she was like, oh my God.
Right.
But I thought she was there. So I threw her in the car. I jumped in the car. I didn't lock the door. Everything, the patio doors are open. I'm freaking driving to the vets at 100 miles an hour. Yes, I've probably been banned from driving because every speed camera caught me driving to the vets. Anyway, we got there. She's fine. She's had a steroid shot. She's asleep over there. And weirdly, as soon as she got this shot, the swelling started going down really fast.
Wow,
so
right away.
Yeah, so that's been my morning.
My grandma used to have a dog called Zeben, and he would eat bees. And it was and he would get stung, but it made him more upset and mad, and he would eat the bees more, he'd be and it was almost like he was tasting something really spicy. He'd grab a bee and it would sting him and he'd be like, and he would just angrily eat this bee and then find another one. And he would go after these bees, dude. And he'd get stung
on the farm?
So many times. No, this was in town, but it was in Montana, man. That's a different
different vibes in Montana.
Vibe, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just like hot sauce for this dog. He loved it, but it would sting him up.
Oh my God, incredible. Also, just to say, if I play my bass during this, I apologize for the dead strings. Ian even called it out earlier. He was like, "No, dude, I think you've been playing that bass a little, quite a lot." And I was like,
"But that's
awesome. I guess." And he was like, "I've never heard any strings deader, but they are.
They are very dead." It's
Give
just
us some
because
bright
I had
ones.
changed the
Give
strings.
us some bright ones.
I had just changed the strings on this, right? And then I was like, I was playing that, and then you showed up and played, I think, neck pickup slap, and it was such a fun contrast.
Yeah.
But that's not bad. It's just different, and it's so crazy, what strings can do.
Yeah. They change your instrument, don't they? Michelle, how do you pronounce her second name?
Ndegeocello.
Yeah. I've got shame about her surname, actually. Somebody pronounced it incorrectly to me years ago, and I learned it and ingrained it with the incorrect spelling. And now every time I go to say it, I hear the incorrect pronunciation. I'm like, how do you pronounce it again? And I'm well into dad zone as well. If anybody out there remembers when your friend Simon came round, right? And your dad incorrectly said his name one time, and then for the rest of the time, they just called him Steve. It's like, hey, Steve, and you're like, Dad, Simon. Every time And like, I know why that happens now. For whatever reason, it's
Yes.
like a mid-40s thing. You just like, so that name has been like, yeah. Anyway, the reason why I was mentioning Michelle is that she plays with pretty dead strings, and really it's like a part of her sound. I think it would sound kind of like alien if I heard her playing with really bright, fresh strings. I'm not sure whether they're flats or rounds. And Paul Turner as well did a great Jamiroquai live on I can't remember what show it was on TV, and I can remember thinking that there were rounds. I mean, there were flats, and when I spoke to him, he was like, "Oh, they were just dead rounds." I was like, "Whoa, yeah." I think it was on Runaway.
Dead rounds are cool. Like, it's cool. It's just very different. It's like, talk about, you change strings on your bass, you think, oh, it'll probably be similar. It's like, wow, it's so different.
That is crazy. Is that your neck picker or both on?
That was both. Right? Neck pickup would be this. Neck pickup, though. But still, you hear those strings shining through, right?
What's that? That's the neck pickup. It sounds like
you're slapping a log, dude.
I know, yeah.
I love it. But I like that vibe is cool too. It's just very different than what you think of with the classic like slap sound.
It's not Marcus
sweet.
Miller.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Hey,
It's
talking
cool.
about slap, that was a big thing for me. Like, I had huge slap bass shame. And we've talked about it before. By the way, if anybody wants to just be like super transparent in the comments, it'd be super fun for you guys to share what you feel. Like, two things: what you feel, what you felt shame about in the past in terms of your playing, and then potentially what you feel shame about now. It'd be great for you guys to share that in the comments. But I really felt shame about slap bass. And I used to have all of this bullshit kind of things, like sayings that like, oh, I don't really do slap. It's not really my thing. Like all of that kind of like narrative. And I've heard a lot of other players use that same type of narrative before. And it justified, at the time when I heard them saying it, it justified me saying it, right? When you hear somebody else using that same narrative and you're like, oh, they're exactly like me. They're not a slap basser.
Right.
And so it almost strengthens your position. And then the way that I got out of it, and then, once obviously I love this saying, when you're inside the bottle, you can't see the label, you can't read the label, right? The thing that gave me the ability to do that is that we created something called the Slap Accelerator, which is a standalone course through SBL. And to do that, I had to get my slap chops together because I had it scared me to death. I can remember, the first time I saw you playing slap, and I was like, oh, and I'd kind of become gradually, and I'm not sure whether it was my narrative, I don't really play slap bass. I'm not really a slap guy. I'm not sure whether it was the narrative, or I felt uninspired by slap or whatever. But whatever it was until I was watching you, and I think it was before we'd even spoken. I saw you play, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool!" Like, you inspired me.
It was the course I did for you, but that was before we even met face to face.
Yes, it was that.
It was the Corey Wong. What is it? It was that stuff. I think
it was exactly
like double
that,
thumb. Yeah, and you wanted that double thumb thing.
I wanted the double thumb, and it gave me a completely new interest in slap bass. I was like, oh, actually, maybe this is something that I've been sleeping on, and listening to my own BS. And then I really got into it off the back of that and started looking at double thumb to begin with. Started this.
Yes.
We've talked about that before, because not only was I not happy with how I played slap bass, I certainly couldn't double thumb. That was like way out of my comfort zone.
Well, yeah, your technique was like down thumb. But I will say this, dude. I never felt that way about you, like, because you made videos about slap bass and you did, you were doing the thing, and I was always like, oh, Scott can slap the bass, but you were using that technique of like down thumb. Yeah, you had like a lane of it.
I had a very like narrow bandwidth. You know what I mean? If you look at the spectrum, right? I had a very narrow. I could do one thing, and I had a few things that I could use to hoodwink people into thinking that, oh yeah, great playing slap bass. You know what I mean? Like whatever, like that thing.
Sure, right.
Which that's not like, it's a thing, but it's not playing. But
it's more like a party trick.
Exactly. It's this sort of like nugget that I've learned, but it's not arguably that musical. And it's only, I think, I'm not sure I ever used it on any gig ever, but probably only used it like internally to be like, oh yeah, listen, I can play slap bass. And then I'm not going to play slap after that. So so I was really inspired by watching you play, and then I went down this whole kind of new like journey of discovery around slap bass, and really fell in love with it actually. And then the pinnacle of that was us recording the Slap Bass Accelerator together, and where I said to you, I was like, I actually might only play slap bass. I'm actually just like, I'm just going to become a slap bass player.
I mean, that is I will never forget that moment. Like, and there was a moment where we first started to even just play together.
Yeah.
Like we just like locked in on a groove together, and you had been busting your ass on doing the double thumb thing.
Yeah.
And we locked in on something, and we sort of looked at each other. I feel like we harmonized a moment, and we looked at each other and stopped. And I feel like there was like a welling of tears. We were so happy.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. It was
and
like,
then we were like, we're only going to slap the bass.
Yeah, we're only going to slap bass, but let's do a slap bass album. I still think we should do that, by the way. I'm just putting it out there. Too. Yeah, like Fearless Flyers type of vibe, but just slap bass. Drums to slap bass, I think it would be outrageous. But for me, it was, and with that actually, just let me mention, we've got something really cool coming up. We're doing something that's called the Slap Bass Bootcamp. Maybe it's called the Ultimate Slap Bass Bootcamp. It's a 3-day live event we're going to be putting on. Ian and I, we're going to be, well, you can imagine what we're going to be doing, right? We're going to be covering all of the slap bass things that will help you get slap bass into your vocabulary. So if you don't play slap bass yet, it's going to be a perfect fit for you. If you do play slap bass, or you're like me, or like I used to be, and play like nuggets like that, but actually want to become great at playing slap bass, this boot camp is going to be really, really cool for you. And it's completely free. It's live over 3 days. It's going to be from the 22nd to the 24th of July. But if you sign up for it and you can't make the dates, we will send you the replays as well. But I will say, if you do turn up for the live sessions, we will be doing giveaways on the boot camp as well. And last time we did it, we gave away a bass.
Yeah.
So it's worth turning up
so
live.
Fun. Yeah, they're so fun. You'll get something out of them. I mean, and there's a giveaway, and they're free. So, you get to come along and hang out and learn something. I enjoy doing that stuff so much, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about, go for it, dude.
No, you go. What are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about like technique. So we're going to be talking about basic technique, how to approach, because there's this whole argument of, not an argument, but it's like down thumb versus through thumb, all of that, double thumb in, like open hammer plucks. So we're going to be looking at all of the different techniques, but then we're also going to be talking about bass setup and how to do what you should do when you're setting up a bass to get that slap sound, what you shouldn't do. We're going to be talking about EQ. how to set the EQ of your amp, compression mistakes, and do's and don'ts of compression. Like all of that stuff, we're going to put it into this jam-packed boot camp for you. And again, it's completely free. And if you want to sign up, I will put a link in the description down below. But if you just want to go to the URL, it's slapbassbootcamp.com. How creative was that? Slapbassbootcamp.com.
Hey, no more Scott and Ian go wild.
No, Scott and Ian go wild.com. Yeah, that was a great URL. But yeah, slapbassbootcamp.com. You can sign up for it totally free over there. And also, we've put a really fun cheat sheet together for you as well. If you want to grab that, that's another awesome thing that we put together. We do talk about some certain like exercises, setup stuff, and stuff like that on there as well. It's a really great resource. And Ian's going to show you a bunch of exercises on that. That's an additional resource. If you want to get the cheat sheet, it's called slapbasscheatsheet.com. So there's two things for you, okay?
Oh, that's cool.
Slapbassbootcamp.com. If you're going to do anything, come to the bootcamp. Slapbassbootcamp.com. But also, if you want to go the extra mile, slapbasscheatsheet.com. Go grab that. It's super, super awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah,
actually.
and you don't need to have
checking it out.
shame. You don't need to be like me.
No, yeah. And there's a bunch of cool exercises that I made that are just very simple if you've never slapped the bass before. Cheat sheet. You can think about it as sort of a 101, right? Like if you're like, man, I don't know really anything about this, that's a great resource. And then also come to the boot camp and hang with us. It's a blast. And I feel like it's a ton of value for zero money, which is really cool. Can I talk to you about the opposite slap shame? I have had and still have the opposite slap shame, which is I worked on it really hard.
Oh, you worked on it really hard. You're too good.
Well, no, and it's not. And I haven't, when you talked about your narrow bandwidth, I don't slap like Mark King or, there's all these different slappers like Umansky with intervals. Like, holy crap. They're just some monster slappers out there. And I kind of have a narrow lane, but I worked really hard on just getting the like. The double thumb thing, just so that I could feel like I could groove on it. But there's that thing of like, oh, you shouldn't do it, and oh, it'll get you fired. And I'm really guarded about some of that stuff on gigs. Like I am never going to slap the bass on a gig that would be inappropriate to slap the bass. Yeah. But I had this experience recently with Mr. Ben Rector, because I got that gig where on a tune called It Would Be You, there sounded like there was some slap bass on the record, and I worked it up, and I was just like, I'm gonna do that at the rehearsal, and just like I'm gonna bust it out when it's appropriate to do in the chorus. And it was simple stuff, it was that kind of thing, right? But like groovy. And I did it, and Ben Rector, like essentially after the song, was like, "Hold on," and I thought, "Oh shit! This is it. I'm about to be fired." Like I took a chance, and I can't wait to talk about this on the podcast.
And it was the wrong move.
Be fired. Yeah, and he was like, "You can do that," and I was like, "What?" He was like the slap thing, and I was like, "Yeah, for sure I can," and he was like, "That's so awesome." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And he was like, "I want you to do it on this tune. I want you to do it on this other tune." He put in a small slap bass solo on a song, and he loved it. And so, I was carrying around this shame of like, I've worked on this thing that almost never is the right thing. And then suddenly it became the right thing in the moment. And I was like, oh, I don't have to have shame about this. I don't have to have overall shame about this thing. Yeah. It's actually when it's appropriate.
It's appropriate. It's really hard to figure out when it's appropriate, isn't it? And I think that
it is.
I think that it's got a bad rap over the years because of misuse. Let's say that.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
Because I think, that thing that I played, right? This thing, right, that people learn these like little nuggets of like fancy party tricks that they can do. And then, do you know what a shoehorn is?
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
it's something you
just try to-
squeeze in the back. Yeah, you put it in the back of your shoe, like an old school leather shoe, and you squeeze that foot. Well, people get that, and they squeeze that whatever that fancy party trick is into a song inappropriately. So I think that happens, and they haven't learned how to actually do exactly what you demonstrated there. Just like play a great bass line,
Sure.
but do it with your thumb.
Right.
So it's not like a slap. It's not higher ground. It's not that. It's actually just it's like.
Right. Right. Right.
You know what I mean? It's just a great bass line, but you're using your thumb. So I think it's inappropriate use. I think has got us to where we were maybe a few years ago, and I think maybe it's actually cool now again. But there was a moment in time. There was a moment in time, and we lived through that.
We did. And imagine this, a drummer that can do a sick party trick fill, but can't just play pocket and play in time.
Yeah.
You'd never want to play with that drummer ever.
Yeah.
If they can do a sick, if they can go, I can't even do that thing you do. I can't even do that thing. Something like that, right?
Don't do it.
That's not what you're doing. But
just
that,
walk
like,
on by.
yeah, I'm just like, dang, I can't even do that trick. But like, if you can do something fancy, or one that I used to do as a kid was this. Wait. Like, with harmonics and, like double pops and stuff. And I would do that and people were like, whoa. But that is like 14-year-old stuff. That's stuff that like you're trying to do to impress somebody. It's not very musical. It doesn't belong in most instances. And I think the problem is when people were slapping, if you're not in time and you're not grooving, it's bad because it's so high stakes. It's so percussive. You hear it. It's it's not like playing this. Yeah, it's not like this. It's not that. So you have to commit to the strikes.
Yeah.
And then if they're out of time, you sound awful. It's tennis shoes and a dryer.
Yeah.
It's like,
100%.
It is not good.
It's bad, isn't it?
So yeah. And then people are like, oh, don't do that. But if you can play it in time, I think that's the biggest thing is like really having nice time around it.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that in the bootcamp. So again, just one last plug, slapbassbootcamp.com. The links are in the description, or you can get the slapbass cheat sheet as well, .com. Something else I've felt, I'll just do another kind of like a short one in terms of like shame, is that when I moved to Leeds, it was a predominantly jazz focused community that I was hanging out with. There is like a jazz school in town, and I moved into this sort of like, and I was into it as well. I was like, I wanted to do it, and I felt huge shame around not knowing enough jazz standards, because some kids just knew like 50 or 100, and then there's also this sort of like there's this, this thing from New York as well. And I think it's sort of like it comes out of there that, this like, I'm not sure what the term is, but it's like, hey, do not go to a New York jazz gig, jam session or anything like that if you don't know like 100 jazz standards.
Yeah, right.
And that used to just scare the living daylights out of me. So I used to have huge shame around that. And I think that, I don't think it's bad, actually. I don't think that cultural thing is necessarily bad. I actually think that jazz in itself is like a full contact sport.
Yeah, right.
Like we were talking about this recently about the different cultural things in different musical centers, right? Different styles of music have different cultural nuances to them. And like, I think that jazz is an aggressive full contact sport, actually. I think that there's a lot of parallels between like shred guitar players and jazz.
Yes.
It's like, you need to know the tunes. You also need to be able to blow and play the changes. Like, and it's like, and if you can't do that within that culture, you are looked down upon. But I think that, and I've actually changed my mind on this recently. I think that I used to feel like I'm not sure whether that's actually needed, but but my new thinking is actually that I was wrong. I think it is important to that culture, and it's in that from the 60s. It's been culturally, it's like that, and I think to sort of like to just weed that out, to squeeze that out of that particular culture, I think would be a negative thing for it in general. And I think it's like, you know, when you go on a track, like, and you're doing 100 meters. I've never done 100 meters. I don't think I've ever ran. But anyway, I've watched the Olympics, you know, like they're all competing. There's no question about that. And I think that there is certain musical cultures where there is that competitiveness as well. And I think that that's okay. I actually think I think that it's kind of like edgy and cool. I like it.
Right. And then you as a player and a musician get to decide if you want to participate in that culture or not.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not so much necessarily that the culture has to change. I mean, I do think there's things about every musical culture that might be sort of toxic, or like, I don't love being around the jazz thing when there's that sort of like vibing you out on stage. I mean, but that said, I'm not really in that culture. I don't want to be. When I see it, I'm like, ugh, like it doesn't excite me. It doesn't pump me up. It doesn't make me want to like go into battle. But there are players like you, like Yannick is another great example of a guy who's competitive. Yannick Wisdala, like he wants to get in there.
He wants to get in the ring. Like, and that isn't, and I mean the ring, not musically almost, although musically as well, it doesn't mean that he's going to play a million notes an hour and he's just going to shoot you down with freaking 30-second note sweep picking.
Right.
You know, he's not going to do that. It's going to be incredible what he plays, but it has got that like aggressive culture to it.
Yes, it does.
And you're absolutely right. And that's, do you know, people talk about the jazz police.
Yes.
Only really recently, I'm like, oh, that is because of the kind of like subtone, like aggressive kind of like culture of that. Like if you remove the jazz police, then is it like maybe it needs that kind of like edginess.
Yeah, dude, I know what you mean. People talk about like, hey guys, music isn't a competition. Hey guys, music isn't a sport. It's like, well, it sort of depends on the genre.
It does, yeah.
It's genre dependent.
Yeah, like shred guitar, I would argue
100% sport.
And that's why people talk about, well, like that kind of like, is it a little bit of a toxic culture within like the guitar? Well, is it? But or another way of looking at that is it's actually just uber competitive. And like, and it's edgy and like, and it's about the aggressiveness.
Right.
And if that's the case, I'm like, actually, maybe that's
cool.
Maybe that's cool. All that to say, I had jazz standard shame. I did solve it to a certain extent. I know a bunch of jazz standards now. I'm not sure I know over 100. I think if I was moving to New York and I was going to go do the jazz thing, I might be like, you know, I might, unlike some other things that I felt shame about where I've actually just sort of like been at peace with it. And I'm like, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to work on that thing. So anyway, I've done 2 of mine. So I had slap bass shame, which I did fix, jazz standard shame, which I kind of fixed. But I've got some other stuff that I didn't fix. What about you?
I'll give you one. I've got reading shame. And man, you know, I started to teach at this college in
this
Minneapolis
is one of mine, by the way.
Okay. Well, check this out, man. I start to teach in my mid-20s at this college in Minneapolis, and I was there for 10 years. It's called North Central University. Shout out to just the amazing students that came through there. Like some of them are just out doing amazing things, and I just had some really great experiences there. But I also carried a ton of imposter syndrome because I didn't go to music school, and yet here I was like Professor Allison, air quotes, for audio listeners.
Were you actually called Professor Allison?
Yeah, some people call me that.
Cool.
Yeah, or Mr. Allison. But I would tell kids like, I mean, I was like 26, dude.
Oh, I just
and I was like,
call me
guys,
Professor.
just call me Ian. Yeah,
I'd be like,
Dr. Allison.
Do not call me Mr. Divine. It's Professor.
I had no business, but I do. I think I was able to do a good job there. Oh my God, I have such imposter syndrome about that time in my life. But I will say this. There was a moment where I would get hired into these sessions. Like, so a high school jazz band would come to the college, for instance, right? We had a really beautiful studio,
Yeah.
and they would set up in the studio and they would record something. And some of these bands were great.
Dude, some of them, like one of the teachers at the jazz college in town, I can remember him going to like a high school to watch a high
Yes.
school. There's just a band, there's a school across town, like it's a really good school called Leeds Grammar School. And he went to watch the big band and he was like, dude, he said, they were incredible. He said, they made me like question everything. He was like,
Yeah.
like they were
Dude,
incredible.
That was the vibe. And so there's all these, 15, 16, 17-year-old horn players and a student drummer, but for whatever reason, they didn't have a bass player. So they're like, who's the, the bass professor here? And they're like, oh, we just hired this new guy, Ian, and I showed up. I'm like, oh, some jazz. Cause I could walk a little and I could, like I'd really been working hard and I felt okay about seeing slashes on a chart and getting through that. There was this, so they put this chart in front of me and it's live tracking and the whole band is there. And oh, hey, this is Ian. He's the bass professor here. Oh, ooh. Oh my God. And I get up there and they put this chart in front of me and it has just this massive 16th note thing. I feel like an 8-bar 16th note thing and then a bunch of slashes. Yeah. And the band leader was like, a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, and they go, right? They're playing this thing, and I'm just chilling, and then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I start walking, and then the band leader goes up, and he points at me, he goes, "That's a unison line," and I said, "What?" And he goes, "That's a unison line. Ready, 1, 2, 1," and I just looked at it, and I thought.
Even with what you're saying, then you can to what we were saying earlier, like that jazz big band. It's that aggressive.
Yes.
What's the film called?
Whiplash.
Whiplash. Yes. It's
Totally.
that's the vibe.
Not quite my tempo, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this band director immediately, just my response to him saying that's a unison line, and I went. My eyes got wide and I looked at the chart and he probably smelled blood in the water.
He smelled blood, yeah. Like a great
and he was
white.
like, "Ready, 1, 2, 1, better play it now." And I just sat there and they went through it again. And then he called it off and he looked at me and he goes, "You got it?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he went 1, 2, 1, 2, and I played I was like, "Please, Lord, give me," just like I wanted to be like Neo in the Matrix, like, "Teach me how to fly a helicopter." You know what I mean? Like, download it into me.
Download it.
Just please, Lord, I'll give anything in this moment. Right? I'll never do anything bad again. Oh my God! And I played like 3 notes of it, and he goes. And he calls it off. And then all of these kids, Scott, like, okay, check it out. Like sax players are like this.
And they're all like
professor,
freaking prepubescent.
Yes. Dude, I'm getting like hot, like nightmare feelings about this right now. So I just said, "Hey, I'm gonna need a minute with this, guys. Sorry." And they said, "Okay." And then it was like with me trying to like shed it. And then I think what ended up happening is I said, "Let's just do it. And I'll come back to that." I'm, honestly, I don't think I'm gonna be able to play this with you guys in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
So I'll put that on top, but I need to shed it a little bit. And I was so lame in their eyes. And then we got through the tune and it was fine, but nobody talked to me. Nobody looked at me, right? I mean, it was like, you are dirt. You're the lowest of the, And so that for me, like I was like, I gotta learn how to read.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is I did spend time working on it, but I never was in a situation really other than maybe one or two times, and that one being really traumatic, but less traumatic times where I actually needed it. I think if I would have been in a pit orchestra or had some opportunity to do some stuff off Broadway or right, I think I would have needed to work on it
You
and
would have
gotten
been
it together.
you would have been like, yeah, given it would have been a reason to do it. And you
Yeah.
would have been
And
inspired to do it. Oh wow, I need to do it for this, whatever
I
reason.
need
Yeah.
to really do
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
But I honestly didn't really need to do it. For most of the opportunities that I was getting and that I was excited about, reading was never a part of it. Chart reading was, but standard notation reading was not.
Yeah.
I worked on it via Player's Path, to be very honest. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you
Yeah.
guys launched Player's Path,
Yeah.
I was checking out reading there. But you talk about either still living in the shame or trying to set the shame aside. I'm not saying that I'll never work on reading again, but for me and for the place that I've found myself in my career, ears are so much more important. We were
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
this on that
Yeah.
when we did that 3-part ear training thing.
Yeah.
Like ears, interval recognition, really understanding chord quality, being able to transcribe something on the fly via ears is so much more important to me than reading. And if I had to choose to put energy into a place, it would be to put energy into my ears and into ear training versus reading.
Yeah.
I just don't find that I don't find that it's almost ever applicable to me, which is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
But I still have shame around it.
I've
I'd
got
love
shame
to be like,
about it.
I've dropped it, dude. I've dropped it, but I haven't. I still get like, oh God. When all those 15-year-old sax players looked at me with disdain.
It's like a dream every sort of like 6 months or so. You'd like reliving
this
that
chart
experience.
this tome of standard notation. I open it. I don't know any of it. It looks like a different language because it is.
Yeah, it's a beast, isn't it? Like I definitely have. Like I always had that reading shame. Like I did. There has been parts of my career where I would say I'm sort of like a decent reader. Like because I've been doing theatre stuff.
Because you've been, yeah, that's right.
I did
You've been
theatre
doing
stuff.
theater
Yeah,
stuff.
I'd be doing like a theatre run for like 6 months or something. So I'm
Right.
reading every night for 6 months. But for me, for whatever reason, I kind of like, I go off the boil with it once if I'm not reading and I've just not done any, because like same as you, like I'll just, in general, the gigs that I get called for, I'm not reading. I'll read charts,
Sure,
like
same.
notation.
Yes.
I mean, like not notation, like chord charts and stuff like that all
Yes.
day long. I mean, I'm really good at reading chord charts.
Yes,
But in
yeah.
terms of like standard notation, I'll go so long without having to do it. So when it comes up again, I'm like, oh, I feel so rusty. Yeah. And I definitely do feel shame about that. And I do want to, in the future, focus more on that. But to your point, like you kind of need to choose your battles in many ways
Yeah.
of what you're going to focus on. And I can remember I was studying with Gary Willis in my like mid-20s over in Barcelona. I used to fly over and study with Gary. And I can remember I still had that reading shame at that point and talking to Gary about it. And Gary was like, oh, I was just never that into it. I was like, what? He was like, I was just never that into it. It was like I never really used it. So I just didn't work on it that much. And that moment, I was like, oh, it untethered me from that ball and chain that I felt so, desperately tied to in terms of that shame. And I was like, oh, if Gary Willis is not stressing about it, I'm not going to stress about it. And his point was, he said he was just always, and I'm not saying that Gary can't read, but it wasn't his thing. He wasn't trying to be like a Broadway guy or a West End guy. And he wasn't focusing on it like that. He wasn't trying to become the best sight reader. And when I listened to him going through that experience, like talking about it, I was like, oh, because he was interested in all of the stuff I was interested in, like improvisation, jazz, walking bass lines, all of that was really what I was into. And so after that, I was, untethered from that shame a little bit. But I do feel it. And also I have bowed out of a gig. There's only one gig that jumps to mind that I wish I could have done. and I didn't. It was I can't remember what show it was, but it was a West End gig, and it was a friend of mine called me on like a Thursday, and the show was on a Saturday. I remember that because he was passing my house on the way. He was like, well, I'm in Leeds tomorrow. I can drop off the chart, and the gig's on Saturday. And yeah, and I can remember saying this, and he said, it's a great bass pad. He said, the bass pad's killing. Short for incredibly full, lots of notes. You're not just playing quarter notes on that. He was like, it's awesome.
That's great.
And I was like, yeah, I got a gig, dude.
That's great, dude. Yes.
I am not going to stand on that landmine.
Yeah. Sometimes it's
so,
knowing about like when to say no.
Know
right?
thyself.
Knowing your strengths.
Yeah. And I really wanted to do it because it was at a time as well where I was like, oh, it was a time before like SBL, and I was like, it was like at the beginning of SBL. And I was like, oh man, like getting into the West End, that could be cool. But a day's notice, and then I'm like, I don't want to end up on the never again list, like I don't want to end up on that list. Yeah.
Yeah. And just with all this stuff, guys, you need to be able to read between the lines when there's certain people that say, you have to be able to do this. You must be able to do this, whatever it is. You can always sort of take a step back. There are educators out there right now that are like, look, you have to read. You have to be a real musician. But obviously that's not true, because there's tons of quote unquote real musicians that don't.
Yeah.
So you always have to just take a step back and look at what you want and be really honest with yourself about your goals, right? Of like, what do I want to be? And if there's something then that's in your way of what you want, attack that. Yeah. But I am 46 years old. I am not going to go into the West End or into Broadway.
That's the deal.
No way.
You've actually knocked the nail right on the head. It depends what you're trying to do. It also depends where you are in your career, right?
Right.
Like,
totally.
If you're younger and you're getting into, like a career in music, knowing how to read really well is going to give you more opportunities. No shadow of a doubt. Of course.
That's right.
In fact, I was talking to Lee Sklar, right? I'm not even sure it was in the interview, but we did talk about it. And he said that reading was really important for him.
Wow.
That he could read incredibly well, and it just opened all of these doors because people wanted people to just go in and read it. And he was being able to do that. Now, interestingly, if you look at his career now, he's playing with, like James Taylor or Phil Collins or, all of these. He's not reading, but to get to, that was his way in.
His pathway.
Yeah, his pathway in. So it was really, really useful. But also on the flip side of that, I've, met bass players, musicians in their like mid 40s or their mid 50s or plus, and I'll have a conversation with them. Like some students of SBL, I'm like, getting a read for where they are, having a conversation with them, and it will come up that they're incredibly stressed about reading. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, so you're really stressed about reading. Okay, so dude's 55. I'm like thinking, okay. I'm like, so why are you stressed about reading? Is like what's your goal with that? And actually, when you dig down into it, it's empty. They've just picked it up somewhere. People are like, you have to read. Well, actually, you don't need to read. Like, it depends on your goal.
Yeah, they heard Jeff Berlin say it on Facebook.
Maybe Jeff said it on Facebook. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, if he thinks so, then that means that I need to. Dude,
and interesting, Jeff's probably speaking to somebody that's like late teens or early 20s when he's saying, he's probably not thinking, I'm talking to somebody who's kicking 60 in the ass and wants to play with his buddies, play blues tunes. Maybe. You know what I mean? Maybe, yeah.
But I think that's actually I think that should be right. Even if he isn't thinking that, even if he's thinking this applies to everybody, I think you are correct when you're saying Absolutely. When you're young and you're trying to gobble up all the information and you don't know necessarily where you want to go, oh man, being a beast reader and having beast ears and knowing jazz standards
Oh
and like just
yeah.
like
I would have
right?
loved that, yeah, because there are players that
Yeah.
we know that
Yeah,
like
man.
we were talking about John
Oh,
Button yesterday.
John
Incredible
Button
reader,
is a great yes.
great reader,
Hmm.
great technique, can play like he's just great, super all
Yes.
rounder. Yeah,
Yep. Just absolute monster. I wonder if Michael League too. Is Michael League a reader? I'm not
he'll be
sure.
able to read great.
I just feel like he probably is. I
Yeah,
was talking to Victor Broden too. Victor Broden is a session player. I think he's in LA now, but he tours all over the place and he's a beast reader, kind of a rock
yeah,
dude, but with the secret reading chops just in reserve,
yeah.
ready to just murder the film score,
Interesting.
So
Like
cool.
Mike League came here. He did some sort of, I think it was like an exchange program with Leeds University, and that's how Bill Lawrence ended up in Snarky. So like Bill was, he's not from Leeds, but he went to uni. Like he was like, we all hung out like all that together, played together and stuff. And then he went over to North Texas State, and then Mike came over here, which is how like a few people in Leeds ended up sort of like hanging out with Mike, and Bill Lawrence ended up in Snarky Puppy. But I can remember everybody talking about Mike when he came over, and because remember it's like Jazzland, he came over to Jazzland competitive.
Yep.
It's like
Right.
I'm like, oh, guys come over from North. Oh, who is this new guy? Who's the new guy?
Yeah. Who's the,
You know,
blood in the water,
yeah,
dude.
because
Blood
I
in
was the
water.
chops guy.
Yeah.
I was the chops guy. I'm like,
Right.
and I'm like, who's this new guy? And a friend of mine said he was like, he's not so chopsy. He was like, but you know what? He said this guy knows every freaking standard. He was like, he just knows all of the standards, and I was like, just added to my standard shame. I was like, oh god.
And you're thinking, if you drill down all the way into it, you're thinking, I don't even really like jazz standards. I mean, dude, I mean, not to call you out or anybody, but I honestly sort of feel that way about like, all these people that like don't learn all of the standards. It's sort of like you play Autumn Leaves and you're like, 100 more of these, huh?
No, I was into it at the time. I was super into it. But
Yeah.
No, I was. Hey, dude.
My Funny Valentine. Oh, in every key, huh? Oh, God. Yes, they're beautiful songs. Can I give you one more shame of mine that I really worked hard to overcome? This is one. So if I left reading in the shame and it's still gnawing at me, this one I did overcome, and it was references. It was essentially like not having some very, very critical bass references and genre in my tool bag. Like, so I was in a rock band for a long time, worked with a producer that pulled me in as a session bass player in my 20s to do a record. His name is Matt Kirkwald. I embarrass him every time I tell this story. He's like, God, dude, you told the story again because someone sent this to me. But Matty, this was huge. So Matt is an incredible guitar player, producer. He hires me. And we're playing, it's going fine. And then there's a bridge of this tune. And he says, let's do something kind of like McCartney. Like, can you give me something that maybe McCartney would play? And in my mind, I was like, I didn't even know who he meant.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Like, I didn't even.
I was thought you meant like John McVie from Fleetwood Mac. You were like, yeah.
I swear
McVie,
to God,
McCartney,
my mind went to Mark McGrath. I turned, who's the singer of Sugar Ray, dude? Like, he said McCartney, and I immediately was like, the only Mick that I know is McGrath from Sugar Ray. And I was like, maybe I could do a Sugar Ray thing. I mean, I was so entrenched in like pop music and rock music of the time that I didn't even, and then he was like, like the Beatles. Ding. Finally, I understand that reference.
Yeah.
And I thought like, I think like McCartney plays up high or something. And so, in the bridge, I was just like, You know,
Yeah.
just a wild, horrific guess at what, you know, and he stopped it and he said, do you know, like, are you familiar with the Beatles catalog or like what McCartney would play? Do you know like Come Together or anything? And I was like, no. And he was like, what about like, you know, James Jamerson? That I'd never heard the name before, you know? And I was like, and he was like, you know, like Motown. I'm like, oh, the like terrible, cheesy music that they play at Dairy Queen, you know, like I was too, I mean, that's scathing, but that's actually how I thought. I don't feel that way anymore. But in my 20s, I was like, Beatles music sounds like a carnival. It's Emperor's New Clothes. I'm looking around going, who thinks this is awesome? Who is there anyone else that thinks this sounds silly? Because to me, it sounded silly.
Yeah.
And then you know,
who were
I
you
would
listening to? Alice in Chains.
Oh, yeah, and Dream Theater and hip and the Beastie Boys and electronic music, and I would hear this at the Dairy Queen, and it's cool to me now, but it was not cool to me then. Right. And so he was like, yeah, and I said, no, I don't know any of that. He's like, well, let's be done. And I was like, oh my God. And he said, and what I want you to do is go to Cheapo Records, which is like our, you know, record stores. I can buy Hitsville USA, which is a Motown box set, and buy Beatles #1s and learn that music. And after you've done that, call me back and maybe we'll work together again. And I said, oh. And he said, all right, let's break for lunch and you can pack up and talk to you later, kind of, you know, like, bye. And I packed up my shit and went into my car and put my hands on the steering wheel and wept. I was like, you know, and then I went, I dried my eyes and I went and drove to Cheapo and bought Hitsville USA and Beatles #1s. And it began this process of understanding that taste needs to be broad if you're a session musician, that references need to be really broad. If you're just in your own rock band or you're your own artist, you can do whatever you want. That's fine. But if you endeavor to be in the service industry of playing other people's music, being a bass player in a service role, which I really did want to be, you have to know what Jamerson is and what a P bass with flats does in that music. You have to know what Paul McCartney does with a short scale bass.
Actually, I think it's one of your superpowers. And maybe that superpower wouldn't exist if you hadn't been through that experience.
Dude, yes. 100%.
Yeah.
And in some cases I go back, I go, well, I wonder if I would have tackled reading like I would have tackled references, what happened. But the interesting thing to me is playing with a high school jazz band as a college professor is not what I wanted to do. That was that was a side quest for me. Yeah. What I wanted to do was play on records. I wanted to be in the studio. Yeah. I wanted to go on tours. I wanted to be a sideman. I want to be a session man, as Tom Bukovac would say, you know, like a session man. I love that. And
shout out to Tom. Great YouTube channel. Homeschooling.
Just the best. Homeschooling, man. Yeah. Homeschoolers out there. I'm one for sure. So I worked on that really, really intentionally. And whenever I see Matt now, and Matt and I went to work on a bunch of other things after the experience, you know, tail between my legs, back to Mr. Matt Kirkwold, the producer, and said, I think I'm ready, you know, and now he just laughs. He was even like, God, did I do that to you? I said, yeah, man, but it was so important. And he didn't do it mean. It wasn't like, get the F out of here. Like, it wasn't that. It was just like, you're not good enough to be here yet. You know, you're not what I need for this music. And bro, that one hurt because it was so true, and I got on top of it.
Shall I tell you something that's super wacky? That it's something I've known, but it's so interesting hearing you talk about it now because I can really see it really clearly. And I've been thinking about it. It's so strange, man. It's so strange that we've had this pod coming up for we knew we were going to do it last week. And then I've been feeling all of this shame over the last week about this thing.
Yeah.
Right. and it's totally related to what you've been talking about, but it is the exact opposite of it.
Okay.
How weird is this?
Okay.
So do you know, you're talking about references, right?
Yes.
And that you said that you went through this shameful experience of being called out. You didn't know who McCartney was. You didn't know Motown, and I was saying to you that you are incredible at, like, you just have this sort of like vast knowledge of like language in the different styles, and especially like people's bass lines. And you can like step into, if I was like, Ian, play me a McCartney bass line, you can freaking nail it.
I can now. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then other people as well. And I absolutely can't do that to the level of you can at all. But interestingly, when you were talking about it, I've been having like mass shame over, and this kind of comes in waves, but of like not sounding like, feeling like I don't have a personal sound.
Oh, sure.
It's like the
sure.
exact, and it's, I think it's to do with, like, to your point, when you were like, I want to be a session man, I want to be a session guy, right? You want to be that.
Yeah, right.
Like my kind of like childhood dream, right? And even my dream now is actually like do my own music and like artist. My bass heroes were like Gary Willis and Scooty Sverrisson and Jimmy Johnson.
Singular voices.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson. Exactly that. Jimmy Johnson or whoever, right? Anthony Jackson.
Yeah.
Anthony Jackson, not so much, but you know what I mean? Like these singular voices.
Yeah.
And I've been like beating myself up this week actually, because I've just been going down like the rabbit hole of like Jimmy Johnson specifically, like transcribing a lot of his lines and really learning how he sort of like views harmony and how he maps it out on the fretboard, how he navigates around certain chords and stuff like that, which has just been incredibly fun. And alongside doing that, like beating myself up and being like, what is your sound? Like, what's your sound? And like listening to my recordings and being like, how do I actually find my sound within that and then lean into it? How do I not sound like just sort of like a shitty version of a pretend version of somebody else? So, which is really interesting because it is like the polar opposite of what we've just been talking about. So it can exist on both sides of the axis. So weird.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of like, I really endeavored to be a session player and to be a chameleon, to not have a sound.
To not have a sound, be able to sort of like, just like be the perfect for this.
For the thing. But dude, you know what happens? And I would argue for you, you have a sound. You have a thing. You have go-to language. You have the sound comes out of your hands. I don't sound like you. Like you have a thing that you do.
Yeah. So do you know what? Here's the thing. Because I think that you're right. I do have a sound. Here's a sort of like, it's a rabbit hole that we'll go down sort of like at some point and maybe figure it out. I generally never play like that on this channel.
Like your sound.
Yeah.
Right.
How weird's that? Like, so for instance, I was thinking about this morning. I was like kind of wrestling with it this morning. I'm like, we're recording this week. We're recording a level 42 Mark King video, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there and I'm learning my level 42 lines for the level 42 video. I'm learning Mr. Pink. I'm doing the thing. And then last week I was learning Blackened by Metallica. And I'm like Jason Newsted, right? So I'm learning that. And the interesting thing, and the thing that I struggle with and I wrestle with, is it's in direct kind of conflict with where my sort of like soul wants to go.
Where your artist heart is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I have no soul for it.
But
it's weird. It's
interesting, man. Because I think though that all of these paths, so you do all this stuff and you learn all these tunes and because you've had to learn a ton of tunes and styles and vibes for this channel that you created, that you as a teacher back, 10 years ago. I mean, how long has it been?
12, maybe 14.
12 years ago.
It's a long time,
dude. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, but I do think that a lot of that stuff sort of like leads you to a sound, whether you kind of know it or not. It's
Yeah.
like all learning all that stuff, ingesting all this stuff kind of like points you in a direction. I mean, for me, dude, it's this too, right? It's like, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't play this way on the channel. But that sound is like my heart. I mean,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
other than when I shoehorn when I shoehorn Glenn Campbell in.
Yeah.
But dude,
Yeah.
I have realized lately that I love playing with a pick. I love doing that spring reverb tremolo thing, or you know, or maybe not that thing, but like playing grooves with a pick. It's that's sort of, I find that that's a little bit my sound, or like sounds and effects and stuff, right? And
we can't talk about this.
I know, I'm so sorry.
We can't talk about it because I was thinking about you. Literally, I pulled up outside the car, right? Yeah. And I'm thinking about two things. I was thinking about the octave pedal, the synth pedal that you've done. So I was thinking about the synth pedal. I was like,
that pedal right there, this one right here.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking, yeah, and then that instantly, I was then thinking about you. I was thinking about Ian. So I think about you, and I was like, oh, and I was thinking about your sound, and then I was thinking about the same thing. I was like, oh, it's this weird. We're in a little bit of a weird kind of dance where, because you're the same thing. Right, you're in a little bit of a weird, and just to let everybody know, hey, we love doing these videos for you. I'm not, saying that we don't love doing, you know, the genius of Mark King or the genius of Jason Newsted or any of those videos, or like Rob from Stone Temple Pilots. Like we love making those videos, but in a way, and this is maybe just like you need to be in it to understand. I don't know. But in a way, it's kind of like there's a strange conflict in there where you just like, you're talking about everybody else's bass lines, and then there's a musician inside of you that really wants to get out, and it's like, and I was thinking about you. I was getting out of the car, and I was thinking about you creating music. Actually, I was like, Ian needs to create some music, because of exactly what I'm talking about now.
I know, right?
Because yes, we can be bass YouTube guys talking and celebrating about all of the greatest bass players to overdo it, but there's actually very legitimate musicians and bass players inside us that also need to get out. And
shit, dude, do we have content shame?
Maybe I don't know what it is. It's something, and it's kind of gnawing at me. It's like, and it's like, how do you find you? Because the danger is that you just become great at just like, you know, sounding like Flea stuff, or sounding like Mark King, or not that we can sound like them, right? But that's what you become, right? And you look back at the end of it all. And and you're like, did I actually, did I give myself a window of opportunity there, or did I just kind of just do this other thing here? It's not that I don't want to do that other thing. It's like, you know, like I did a couple of videos. We talked about this kind of roundabout, like a couple of weeks ago. You know, I did like a couple of videos where I just shot them on my iPhone and uploaded them onto YouTube.
Tom Bukovac style, baby.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, homeschooling. And in that, I was like, oh, I wonder if there's a window where I can just be myself and not have to, you know, do you know what I mean? I can be myself. I can talk about the stuff that's interesting me, and talk more about the sort of like the nerdy stuff without it getting in the way, because I don't want to not do all of the stuff that we are doing. It's finding a way of doing it alongside that. And I would say maybe there's, you know, the same opportunity for you as well. Well, you know what I mean? Like,
I know, I do. I think about it a lot, actually, where I'm like, man, it's a lot of work to get to make videos, to make great YouTube videos. It's a beast. And then, and then it's like, you get home and it's like, do you want to start another YouTube channel? It's always easier not to, right? It's always easier to be like, oh, no. But yes, that has been gnawing at me as well, for sure.
Yeah. Strange, isn't it? Yeah.
I know.
Anyway,
I would love to know too, guys, in the comments, please. Scott mentioned this before, but honestly, this community of commenters, for the very most part, is really lovely. And it's not the shark infested waters that you typically see in YouTube comment sections.
Yeah.
So we're asking you to tell a story, be vulnerable, make friends in the comments, leave a comment of encouragement for someone else who tells their story about what they're struggling with. And if you wouldn't mind, we've been very vulnerable. We've talked about the stuff that we have shame around, that we've sucked around, that we've either gotten over or not, that it's still gnawing at us. The stuff that's gnawing at us currently, if you'd be so kind as to leave a comment and let us know what's gnawing at you. Would love to know. I read this stuff. Scott does too. Yeah. We check this stuff out. So would love to know. And we think too, it would just help the community overall to just know, like, what are the struggles? What are the things you feel shame about? And it'll only be helpful. And then nice comments only, y'all. Don't tease somebody out there who's been vulnerable. That's a real dick move. Don't you do that.
I called somebody a dick the other day on YouTube on one of our videos, and one of our team removed it.
Yes, man.
I called them out. I was like, there's always one dick in the room. You're it. And then I noticed that the comment got removed. I was like, God damn, that was a great comment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh man, there's been, this just came out. I mean, we'll talk about this sometime, but this pedal just came out, and there are a lot of lovely comments and some really mean ones. Oh, dude, just people that think the enthusiasm is fake, and it's like, God, my response is, and just imagine, this is me toning it down. Like, I am so pumped about stuff like this, right? That I get excited and people think it's fake, and it is like it is actually so real that I can't even describe.
They should have been here when we were doing the slap accelerator. We were like, we're only going to be slap bass, but
just like, and it's so real. It's like childhood enthusiasm. And I wish it for everybody, actually. I wish it for everybody, that you can get to that level of excitement and enjoyment when you're playing your instrument.
Dude,
it's a beautiful thing.
It's the thing, isn't it? It's like, I was listening to a podcast the other day. I can't remember, this sort of like super rich guy, and they were talking about the value of money and like whether it's sort of like worth it or not. And he was like, listen, I've been poor, I've been rich. It's way better. Like, being rich is way better. And it's the same here, isn't it? Like, I'm super enthusiastic, like 99% of the time. And when I am, life is way better.
Yeah.
Feels great.
I feel like that's true versus like, I don't know. I just can't do it. I'm into this, for better or for worse. So, yeah.
Let's call it. Dudes, thanks so much for hanging with us. If you do want to check out that boot camp that we're running, what are the dates again? 22nd to the 24th. But if you sign up, we will send you the replays of the sessions. Anyway, it's totally free. slapbassbootcamp.com, links in the description. But if you do turn up live, we're going to be giving away some sweet ass gear. Maybe we even get one of them synth pedals. Give one of those away.
Oh my God, let's do it. I'll check in about that. Love that.
Anyway, we'll see you there, guys. Take it easy. Bye.